Good afternoon, coaches. This is Eric Anderson. We will begin in a few moments while we wait for people to come on board. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions, either now or during the presentation, there is a live chat box on the YouTube screen. Please type in your questions there, and either one of the moderators will answer your questions, or I will get it during the presentation. Coaches, it is now 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Eric Anderson. I am both the league administrator for the National Air Rifle League, as well as the owner and eventer of the Orion scoring system. And you are here with us for the coaches meeting for the 2020 season of the National Air Rifle League, National Air Rifle New Shooter League. Welcome and thank you. All right, a couple logistics as we get started. Excuse me. I will try to keep this to about 30 minutes, and that will depend on the questions that you have. Today's topics will be specific to the New Shooter League. If you have questions that are specific about how to use Orion, if you have questions about something that's very specific to your account, probably will not be able to get to those today just because we are going to try to stay on topic specifically for the Air Rifle League. I do encourage you throughout the coaches meeting to ask questions, to make comments. Your YouTube web browser will have a chat box, and please use the chat box to ask any of your questions. Either a moderator will be able to answer your question, or I will get to your question once I have a free moment. Today's webinar, as well as the PDF slides, will be available for download. There are a lot of coaches who can't attend live, so we will make this available to them. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. The couple of statistics for this year's league, the New Shooter League. This is the third season for the New Shooter League. We have 61 registered teams. That is a new high for us. And with that, 573 athletes, estimated athletes, will be participating in this year's league. We have representations from 30 different states, plus Guam. We have one school from Guam. And Texas leads all the states with 7 teams, and North Carolina has 5. Florida and Virginia each have 4 teams in this year's New Shooter League. For those of you who participated in 2019, we really only have one change from last year, and that is we are going to use decimal scoring. And there's a couple reasons for this, but the biggest reason is After the Air Rifle League that we had in the fall, the main Air Rifle League, we surveyed you, the coaches, if you wanted to adopt decimal scoring for the league. And the response was pretty positive. 54% of the coaches were in favor of adopting decimal scoring, compared to 27% who were opposed to it. So basically a 2-to-1 ratio, with the other coaches having a no opinion on the matter. So that a little hard to ignore. Um, there are other reasons for adopting decimal scoring, namely the I do have a misprint here. The National Three-Position Air Rifle Council rules that we run under now permit decimal scoring. Decimal scoring has also been adopted by both USA Shooting and the ISSF since 2013, and they are, of course, the national governing body and the international governing body for the sport. And more qualitatively, decimal scoring is seen as a more modern and fair way to score targets. So this is why this league that we will be using decimal scoring for the season. And for those of you who are familiar with the main Air Rifle League that we run in the fall, there are a couple differences which I will go ahead and point out. The New Shooter League is first and foremost for new shooters, and I will get to what that, how we define that in a slide or two. The schedule is also slightly different. In the New Shooter League, it is a 8-game schedule over 10 weeks. That means you'll have your team will have 2 bye weeks during the season. The schedule is dynamic. Actually, that's kind of the same with the main Air Rifle League. And in the New Shooter League, there is no conferences. Everybody competes under the same conference. It's the same group of teams no matter what. There is no postseason in the New Shooter League. And one of my favorite parts about the New Shooter League is how we have how we award athletes at the end of the season, award teams. And we make equal emphasis on the competition, participation, and improvement. And again, towards the end of the slide deck, I do have a slide specifically on the awards, so we'll go into that in more detail in a few moments. So let's talk about the eligibility of your athletes. So again, this is the New Shooter League. They do have to be eligible under the National Three-Position Air Rifle rules, which is the rule book that we abide by, that we run the league under, which basically means your athletes have to be high school age or younger. They can be in junior high school if they want to. They just have to be high school age or younger. This is for sporter class athletes only. I would love to run something under the precision class. There just isn't the numbers to support that. So for the New Shooter League, it is sporter class only. And finally, they have to be new shooters. And we do have a very specific definition as to what a new shooter is. And that is they have their first competition, the athlete's first competition had for either air rifle or small bore rifle has to be on or after the 1st of August 2019, which we chose specifically because it more or less corresponds to the school year. We do have exceptions if an athlete previously shot in a BB gun, air pistol, high power rifle competition. Those in and of themselves don't disqualify them for a new shooter status. It is specific for an air rifle competition or a small bore rifle competition. One additional note on this, I have had certain coaches contact me asking me how come we don't define it as within a year of when they started shooting. And the answer is actually pretty simple. By defining it by the first competition, it is quantifiable. It is something that we can look up. Both we here at Orion have a very large competition database. We also work very closely with the Civilian Marksmanship Program. So if an athlete competed before this date, we have the database, we would know about it. So it is quantifiable. So that's why we chose this definition. All right, the season is broken up into 2 parts. The preseason, which is going on now and lasts through the end of this week on Sunday. If you have already had the opportunity to participate in the preseason, great. We really recommend it. If you haven't been able to compete in the preseason, it is very much a recommendation, especially if you are new to the league. So please, it is your opportunity to participate in a league type game, but without your scores counting in the season itself. And then during the regular season, which starts a week from yesterday, it is a 10-week season. Most weeks your team will have exactly one game, but you'll have 2 weeks that you have bye weeks. When you registered, you were able to request specific bye weeks, and as long as we have that information ahead of the time, we're actually pretty good about honoring your requests. For those of you who haven't requested bye weeks, you still have the opportunity. You go back to the original registration email. There is a link there that you can click on to update your registration, including your bye week requests. And the schedule during the regular season is dynamic, and I will talk about that in a slide or two. I will pause for a moment because we did get a question with respect to athletes who are in the 7th and 8th grades. Yes, under the council rulebook, eligible athletes just have to be high school age or younger. So if you have athletes who are in the 7th or 8th grade, they are absolutely eligible to compete in the New Shooter League. So yes. All right, with that, I will continue on. And again, for those of you who do have questions, please use the YouTube chat feature. Either a moderator or myself will get to your questions as soon as we are able to. All right, returning to the slide deck. The game, there is one game each week, and the week is defined as Monday through Sunday. And what that means is the earliest you can shoot your game each week is going to be on Monday, and your scores have to be turned in Sunday at midnight. The course of fire for a game is a 3x10. And again, new this season, we will be scoring everything in decimal scoring, decimal values. All games are virtual, which means both you and the team that you're going to compete with each week will shoot from your home range. And it could be, could be a team that's down the street, or could be a team that's in Hawaii or Guam, Alaska, what have you. All games are governed by the National Standard three-position air rifle rules. For those of you who may not be familiar with the rules, there is a link to the rule book off of the National League's website. And we will also be providing to each of the coaches a ranged officer command script. We'll be sending that out on Friday, and we'll get to you early next week. And we also have that available on our website as well as a PDF file. And then finally, for each game, the scoring will be done electronically. There's no protest shot values allowed. And once again, I'm going to pause for just a moment. There was a question with respect to the preseason match, and it looks like it's kind of a technical question, and one of our moderators already did get it. If you are participating in the preseason match, and again, that's something that we do recommend, and something doesn't look right with your scores, please contact our offices. The preseason match does give us the opportunity to work with you one-on-one before the league starts, so it's our opportunity to make sure everything is set up on your side. And by calling us for technical questions does give us the opportunity to work with you one-on-one. All right, let's return to the slide deck. And with respect to the game, so once again, the game is scheduled each week. You have a game scheduled between Monday and Wednesday. You, as the coach, one of your responsibilities is to schedule your team to shoot sometime during that week. And I leave it up to the coach to decide this. Every club has slightly different local restrictions that you have. You may only have access to the range one day of the week. You may have baseball practice for half of your teams on some of the days. I leave it up to you to decide when to schedule your team to shoot. Now, with that said, there's a couple of different couple things to highlight. One, all members of your team do not have to participate on the same day. In the first chart that I have above, I have this fictional team of 4 athletes, and we see here that 2 of your athletes, Matias and Camila, are shooting on Tuesday. And your other 2 athletes, Sophia and Mariana, are shooting on Thursday. That is perfectly acceptable. Your team may shoot on separate days. Now, what is not allowed under league rules is for your athletes to participate in the league more than once. There's absolutely nothing in the rules that permit that. That would be illegal. So your athletes can shoot on separate days, but they may only participate in the league once. There is no re-entry option for the league. All right, scheduling. The way that we do scheduling is a process that we call dynamic scheduling. The first 2 weeks of the league, which we will announce on Thursday, this Thursday, is 100% completely random. You might get scheduled to compete against Ozark and Zion Benton the first 2 weeks, which case, good luck to you. Or you might get scheduled to compete against 2 very teams that are being developed. It is random. That's all there is to the first 2 weeks of the league. After the first 2 weeks, the scheduling, we start to employ the dynamic scheduling. And what this means is we try to schedule your team with another team that has roughly the same skill level. We base that on what we call league points. And the way that we release the schedule is the schedule for the 3rd week is based on scores from the 1st week, which we announce after the 1st week. The schedule for the 4th week is based on scores from weeks 1 and 2, which we also announce after the 2nd week, and this pattern goes on throughout the course of the league. Now, again, dynamic scheduling has 2 almost contradictory goals to itself. Yes, we do try to schedule you against a team that has a similar skill level, but we also try to maintain a diversity of competition. What that means is we don't want the same teams constantly competing against themselves. So sometimes these goals are not exactly in line with each other. We do have these we do have these goals in mind, and this is how we're doing the scheduling. One other note. Teams with 2 or more DNSs, which is did not start, they did not turn a score in for a week, will not be scheduled going forward in the league. It's unfair to teams if you don't turn in the scores. So if you do that twice, we just drop you from the league, and it's just not fair to the other teams in the league who are participating. All right, rankings. Rankings during the league are based on what we call league points. This, again, is also how we are doing the scheduling. League points is the sum of your seasonal average, plus you basically get bonus points for each win that your team earns. 10 bonus points for each win, 0 points if you have the loss for the week. And then you have negative points if you have a DNS, a did not start, you did not turn in a score. And then if your team gets disqualified, hopefully that does not happen, there is a more severe penalty for that disqualification. And then if there is teams with an equal number of league points, we do have listed in the league program how the ties are broken. The first tiebreaker is the highest number of wins. The second tiebreaker is by the highest score fired during the season, and so on and so on. But the important thing to recognize here is that league points is the sum of your average plus, in effect, bonus points for each win that your team earns. All right, how to participate. There's a couple of pieces of information that I can give you to learn how to participate in the league itself. First of all, you are all logged on to YouTube, and in our YouTube channel, we have a specific video about participating in league games. If you have not had the opportunity to view that video, I strongly encourage you to do so. For those of you who have, thank you. I know it has gotten quite a few good comments from those of you who have viewed it. Second, we will be sending out the instructions and range command manual to each of the coaches this week. If you want a PDF version of it, it is also available on our website on nationalleagues.com. But we will send a hard copy which has all of the range commands to you this week. Please remember that each week your game for the week will be released by about noon each Monday. It does take us a little bit of time each week to Monday mornings to get this stuff released, so please be patient, but we do try to have everything released by noon on Monday. And again, you have until Sunday to participate and turn in your scores. As a reminder, it is a best practice, and what we recommend as the coach, prepare the targets ahead of time and then hand them out to your athletes prior to firing. And then once after each stage the targets are shot, collect them immediately from your athletes. Very, very important, after you have shot, after you have scanned and scored your targets, extremely important that you check that your scores got uploaded correctly. The way that you do this, inside of Orion there is a globe icon. When you click on that globe icon, it opens up the what we call the game page on our Results Center page, and you want to make sure that your scores are listed, as well as each athlete that was on your team was listed. If you see this information on the website, on the Results Center, then your scores were successfully uploaded. I'm going to pause for just a moment because there is a question, so give me a moment as I read this. One question here was with respect to barcode labels. Barcode labels we do strongly recommend. It just makes the statistical officer's job easier. Not required, but we do recommend it. If for those of you who have been participating in the league for a couple of years, you may have remembered about a year and a half ago during the fall leagues, we did require color-coded barcode labels. We no longer do that. After that season, we determined it was just not worth it. It was more of a hassle. So barcode labels are not required, but we do strongly recommend using them. They do make your life easier. And there's another question in response to participation. So again, we do have a preseason competition that you are eligible to compete in. For those of you who do not know, you can actually participate in the preseason multiple times. If you want to do that, let us know. We can let you enter. And we also have separately what we call monthly virtual matches, which are outside of the league but are another competition that you may participate in. All right, returning to the slide deck one more time. So once again, each week you want to make sure that your scores do get turned in correctly. The first place that you do that is to click on the globe icon and view your scores within the Results Center itself. Second, each Friday we will be sending out an email to you with your team's score. This is meant as a reminder and that your scores are all available and you can see what we have in the system at that time. Of course, if your team is not scheduled to shoot until Saturday, and you see this email on Friday, it's going to say that you have a score of 0, but that's expected since you haven't shot. But if you shot on Tuesday and you get this email on Friday and it shows you a score of 0, something is wrong. Something did not get entered correctly. And if you have that, check your system and give us a call, and we will try to help you make sure your scores do get uploaded correctly. Very, very important. I probably said this a dozen times already, but I'm going to say it one more time here and probably a few more times. The scores are due Sunday at midnight. If you turn in your scores after that, they cannot be accepted. Scores are due Sunday at midnight. Very, very important that all coaches remember that throughout the league. Now, we do have a couple of special circumstances that seem to pop up every year. That's, unfortunate, but these things happen. As a reminder, every club is a little bit different. You may request bye weeks during the season. By default, every team has 2. You may have more than 2 bye weeks if you want. The sooner you can give us that information on your bye weeks, the more likely that we can honor those. If something unusual comes up during the season that was not expected, contact us as quickly as you can. Our default answer is we try to work with you to make sure that your teams can participate. But the key to that is we have to be in communication with you when something odd happens. And sometimes what that odd thing is, the most common thing is weather. Weather may close your school, may make it impossible for your club to meet one week. These things happen. We understand. We will work with you to make sure your team can participate. But again, the key is you have to let us know so we can work with you to do that. One thing that we don't really allow for, though, is making special circumstances for is if an athlete is sick. In a game, the top 4 athletes, regardless as to who they are, count as your team score. I always give the analogy in a basketball game. If your starting point guard is out sick, you have to rely on your bench, your second string point guard to step up. It's the same thing this. Unfortunately, if an athlete is sick, hope he or she gets better, but the game still goes on. If you have 2 games during a week, this will be caused by a scheduling change. The only reason why it would be is if it's there was a scheduling change. You do have to shoot the 2 courses of fire separately. And please note that we do have in the league program the ability to cancel a game if necessary. We would only do this under a extreme condition. Thankfully, last fall we did not have to do that, but we have had situations, especially in the fall leagues, where schools got canceled due to damage caused by hurricanes. So please be aware that can happen. We try not to, but it can happen. All right, awards. As I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite things about the New Shooter League is how we present awards. Because this is the New Shooter League, we try to emphasize not just competition, but also participation and improvement. We put equal weights on all 3 of those aspects for the league itself. As far as participation awards go, which we're going to be trying to sending out this week, every team will get 2 league posters. We have a very cool poster this year, and every athlete from each team will receive a participation pin and a sticker for his or her rifle. And again, we're going to try to send this out on Friday for you. Then at the end of the season, we're going to present medals for each of the athletes from each team that meets 2 of the 3 criteria. First, if your team earns 5 or more wins during the season, that's the first criteria. Second, if your team participates in all 8 games, this is probably the easiest of the three components. Just shoot every week, and you'll get this checked off. And then number 3, if your team shows improvement during the season. So, do 2 of these 3 criteria, and we will award your team. And if you notice, because of the participation, because of the improvement, it is possible that every team, every athlete, will get an award at the end of the season. This hasn't happened yet, but it is possible, and we hope someday that that actually will happen. And then finally, for the team itself, we will send a banner for the teams that meet this criteria as well. So that third criteria, showing improvement, how do we quantify that? And what we do, we take your team's 8 scores during the season, And we do go ahead and drop the lowest score just in case there was some type of abnormality with it. And we use Excel's Linus functions. Basically, it's a statistical method that calculates points per game improvement. And we surveyed you, the coaches, a couple seasons ago, and you said 5 points per game was the metric that you wanted to meet. And so any team that has 5 points per game improvement during the season, that will tick off that checkbox for awards. And just as a note, and you wonder how easy or difficult that metric is to meet, in the Air Rifle League last season, teams improved by 9.6 points. So you do have to work at it. It's not a given, but it is very much achievable, especially for the teams who practice outside of their league games. For those of you who have been in the league for a while, you know that we send out press releases each week. And because one of our goals in the league is to provide greater positive attention to the sport, we send this out not just to you, the coaches, but if you provided a newspaper, we will also send it out to the editor of that newspaper. And a lot of, especially local newspapers, will pick up on these press releases. It's a great way to promote your team and the sport to your community. And we will also make the press releases available on our Results Center, and we will be posting information on our Facebook page as well. All right. Along with the press releases, another way that we try to help promote your team is through team photos. We do require team photos for each team in the league. We not only put these up on our Facebook page, we not only post it up on our Results Center and our National League's website, but if any newspaper editors, reporters ask for photos of your team, we provide them to the media as well. And once you have your team photo, you can send it into league@orionscoringsystem.com, and we will post it from there. All right, team coaches, here is the summary of what you are responsible for during the league itself. Of course, be familiar with the league program and rules. Once again, these are available, the league program itself, and a link to the rules is up on our website, nationalleagues.com. You are responsible for conducting each game according to the National Standard 3-position air rifle rules. Again, if you follow the range command script that we send you, you will be doing so. You're responsible for scheduling each game during the time frame of the week, Monday through Sunday. I leave it up to each coach to decide what is the best time for your club, but you do have to schedule it during that week. You are responsible for the correct use of Orion. We here at Choose Technology will help you learn how to use the system correctly, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to use it correctly. It is your responsibility to contact the league administrator if you have any outstanding circumstances. Again, usually the biggest situation here is weather. If you have weather costs delayed, we will work with you, but we have to know about it. And then finally, the honesty and integrity of your team. Unfortunately, this is a bullet point where I wish I didn't have to remind the coaches of this. And unfortunately, every year we catch one or two teams who decide that this wasn't important. We do have random checks on the targets that are scored. We do have random checks to make sure that you are complying with the rules. Hey, look, as a coach, one of your jobs is to teach sportsmanship, ethical responsibility to your athletes. Follow through with that. It's best for you, it's best for the league, it's best for everybody. That's simple part of sport. And as I just mentioned, we do randomly check targets each week to make sure that they did get scored correctly. We do check that penalties got applied correctly, and if we see anything unusual, we do have it that we can assess additional penalties if the rules weren't followed. If you have questions on how to apply any particular penalty, the most common one being extra shot fired, feel free to call our offices and we will assist you with that. One of the one of the things that when we first ran the league, a number of years ago, we had coaches asking us for the contact information of the other coaches, and what they wanted to do is to reach out and basically say, "Hey, congratulations, good luck, what have you." And this was really a good opportunity to promote sportsmanship between the teams as well as camaraderie. And at the time, we didn't have a way to a mechanism to do that. But today, we have it in the league program that we will release your contact information to every other coach in the league. This contact information is going to be your email address and your phone number, and we will send this out probably next Tuesday, next Monday or Tuesday, at the start of the league. Please, please, please use this information for the purpose it was provided, namely to promote sportsmanship between teams, to wish each other luck. If your team lost, to wish the other team congratulations. This is why we're providing information, and we are relying on each coach to honor that. And of course, if you do not want your information shared with the other coaches, we will honor that. Let us know. We will be happy to opt you out of this spreadsheet information. All right, we are closing up towards the end of the presentation. A couple hints to success. Remember that teams, you're ranked not just by your wins and losses, but by your, you're not just ranked by your wins and losses, but by also your league average. One of the keys to success, though, is to avoid taking a did not start, a DNS. This has a negative effect on your league points. So a simple way to just make sure your team succeeds is to compete every week. Even if your team is not doing badly, just by competing, you will be getting those necessary points. Make sure that you double check our website, the emails that we send out, that your scores did get turned in correctly. This, unfortunately, is one of the most common mistakes coaches make, is they don't check. So make sure that you do. It's one of the easiest ways to avoid a DNS. And then don't get discouraged if your team drops a game or two at the start of the season. Wins at the end of the season count just as much as wins at the end of the season. In league play, one of the things that is very common is the teams that end up doing well overall are not the teams that start out well. They're the teams that finish well. So don't get discouraged. Keep practicing, keep getting better, and towards the end of the season, you will see improvement. And of course, one of the keys to success is simply to work hard every week. One of the most amazing things when we conduct the surveys at the end of the season is how much coaches believe the league helps their athletes get better. So use this as a motivational factor for your athletes. Encourage them to practice and not only get better during the league itself, but get better overall. All right, I thank you for attending today's coaches meeting. I will stay on the line in case there are additional questions. I currently do not see any additional questions, but I will wait until anything comes up. For those of you who are going to drop, thank you very much for attending. We will be sending the participation awards out on Friday, and the league starts on Monday, so good luck to each of you. Once again, if you have questions, you can ask it now, or you can call into our helpline. You see the number here, and we'll be happy to answer your individual questions. I just got asked by one of my colleagues to remind you, the coaches, if you haven't done so already, the email that we sent out this morning, there was a link to check your registration. Please check that your team name is spelled correctly. and we also have your bye weeks down listed correctly. If you need to make changes, you can give us a call, or if you go back to the original registration email that you received when you registered, there is a link to update that information. Any changes to your team name will not be possible once the league starts. I guess one other reminder is the reason why we have everybody check their team names before Wednesday is on Wednesday we will actually be creating the schedule for the first 2 weeks. So you can look for that information released later this week. Excuse me, we're going to be releasing that on Thursday, not on Wednesday. We'll, And again, if anybody has any questions, you may type it into the chat box on the YouTube live chat window. All right, coaches, doesn't seem like any additional questions are going to come in, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream for the moment. Once again, thank you for joining us today. I wish each of you good luck. The league is a great opportunity to help motivate your team to get better, and I hope that works for all of you. And remember, the awards that we have are not just based on competition, but is also based on participation and improvement. So it's something that every team can achieve. Just have to work hard to get there. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and I hope everybody has a successful season.